Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed host.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy, NFL preseason rolls on, despite the fact that I would love to do nothing more than a grab baggy type of podcast where we just comment and reflect on the crazy weekend that was. We had Wimbledon wrap, we had Euro wrap, we have the NBA finals going on right now. It is a crazy, crazy time in sports. But you know what? I've learned a valuable lesson over the years. You need to put in the work if you want to win in the NFL. You cannot kick the can down the road and expect to get caught up in the last month before the season starts and expect to have a winning edge in the NFL. You just cannot do it. And so for those reasons, today starts our official preview series of every NFL team over the next 16 episodes.
Yeah. And like I did mention in the past, we will have some bonus content in the next month because we are not going to forget about the Olympics. We love the Olympics. We love everything about the Olympics. So that'll be on top of this. But yeah, our Mondays and Wednesday shows will always be 2 teams on Monday, 2 teams on Wednesday. Those 4 teams will combine to create what we call in the NFL division. We'll start with the 2 shittier teams in this division that's a little trickier. We're just going to go by the consent. These will not be judgment calls on our part. We're going to take the odds. We're going to say these teams are the least likely by odds to win the division. The 2 that are most likely will be on Wednesday. So today we'll be starting with a couple teams that almost made the playoffs. If you want to go by, Dave Gettleman's logic, yeah, the Eagles and the Giants today. We've let people know that. But yeah, exciting weekend. We won't dwell too much on it, but congrats if you did listen to any of our tennis stuff last month. And I mean, people DM'd like, "Hey, I got Novak at like plus 150 at this one skin." Like, yeah, you
nice.
should bet. Like, yeah, you should bet that. Like anything around even money wasn't really much of a sweat. He was a heavy favorite in the final. That was fun.
It was a fun way to play it. Lose the first set, win the match, plus 400. That was a nice little Sunday pad your pocket. But yeah, no, then and I want to just real quick hat tip to you. What a run to finish the Euro. Congratulations, Andy Footy Picks, paying my mortgage over the quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. We were joking because your round of 16 picks were so incredibly precisely not correct. And then I was like, okay, this is going to turn around. And not only did it turn around, but then you sweep the remainder of the knockout rounds. It was fun to watch. You finished in the black. Congratulations. You beat the toughest sport on earth to beat. And we'll never forget that. So congratulations to Italy, but more so congratulations to Andy.
A lot of adjustments for my 2024 model as we go forward. I had a lot of fun. Honestly, Wimbledon's great, but man, to have the Euros and Wimbledon at the same time, it was a ton of fun. It's a really fun tournament. Copa America kind of sucks compared. Copa America was fun, but just not, and obviously the Gold Cup. The Gold Cup's awful. We have Jamaica and Suriname playing, man. Like it just doesn't have the same ring as like Belgium and Portugal. It's just not quite there. So no. We'll continue to degen some of that. But yeah, into football. We'll start with
and let's break. Okay, so basically with every team here. What do you think? We'll try to keep these at about a half an hour. We will do our damnedest. It will be impossible for some teams where we just have so many thoughts it will spill into a longer podcast. We apologize. Listen to us on 2.5x speed or whatever the hell you want if you are worried about getting all of this information. But we're going to do this somewhat formulaically. We're going to do a quick recap of what happened in the 2020 season. We are going to break down current at the time of recording 2021 odds. We are going to look at the schedule specifically, comment on things that are of interest, and then we are going to bring a couple of key points that are relevant as we move into the season. It may be like, this is a dead nut over team. It may be this is a team that's going to be a great look live down because of X, Y, and Z. It may be these are coaches that we've never heard of before. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? Like that's the general kind of way we will put a bow on all of these teams. But we will always will be entirely betting focused. That will be the perspective, the lens,
I had a DFS take on one of these players.
Okay.
Just in my head, I'm like, this is like a good DFS play.
Andy will sprinkle in some DFS winning thoughts for sure, and just general fantasy football thoughts. I'm sure.
The people, if you saw it today on Twitter, we're doing a little pool with some people we chat with quite a bit on Twitter for the home run derby. Similarly, we do like a buddies league on DFS for football every week. And I got first and second in weeks 16 and 17 last year. So like I'm coming for that DFS. It's just lucking into things. Honestly, you know what it was? For my job, I was listening to a bunch of DFS content to try to scout some people out.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, oh, I'll use your stuff for a lineup. And like, hey, suck it, everybody. I won. I beat Will and Cal and everybody who actually tries hard. So, no, DFS stuff is a lot of fun, even though I'm just kind of a donkey, I suppose. I just like to play buddy leagues and have a little fun. And a millionaire. You have to do a millionaire scratch off. But
is Donkey Fantasy Sports handle already taken?
Oh, no, I'm. Find me, I'm not going to give up my handle. I get it. There was and everybody knows there's that one guy that was like challenging everybody to 30 NASCAR head-to-heads last year or whatever. I don't need more people like that doing that. But anyway, yeah, like Drew said, we'll touch. You can see our rundown on the side here. The top three we're going to touch on last year. We're touching the odds. We'll touch on the schedule, and then we'll hit some of the big topics specific to that team. And we will start with your
Philadelphia.
What is
Eagles.
it? Fly Eagles fly? What's their hashtag?
Fly Eagles fly. Yeah, let's get started.
Fly Eagles fly. That was a weird year. Weird year for everybody in this division. We're gonna start all four of these with, hey, what a weird year for this team. It was obviously a very talked about division with just how things shook out at the end and everybody being into it. But the Eagles, I felt like it's one of those things where you'll never know whose fault it was, because it's like, all right, and here's where we stand. If you haven't, previously remembered, well, no. Let me roll with this. This. So, because I think I know whose fault it is. I don't think Carson Wentz is good anymore. I don't think he'll ever be good again.
We don't disagree.
It's one of those things where it's like, and this is maybe why the Colts were willing to take a chance on him. It's like, oh man, his whole offensive line got hurt. Everybody, all his receivers got hurt. I want to say, well, Jeffrey was like nursing an injury from the year before, but Jackson Ertz, plus he is washed. But Jackson Ertz, Rager, Goddard, they all got hurt as well. So like, I can see why a team would be like, oh, maybe Carson Wentz. It's just all his receivers got hurt. His offensive line got hurt. It's just no continuity, the infighting with Doug in the front office with Doug with the players, Carson with everybody. And I can see why Indy did it. I don't buy it. It's one of those things where, we'll never know until we see a bunch of Colts games and be like, oh, all right, never mind. So it was a tough season for injuries. And I think possibly, even if I don't agree with the Sirianni hiring, probably a blessing in disguise, because I don't think a 9-7 season, winning this shitty division, losing to somebody in the playoffs, and going back to the well with Carson Wentz again would have been good for this franchise long term.
I completely agree with that.
So maybe like all the injuries, a little bit of a silver lining in that, as far as, all right, we're moving on. I think the Jalen Hurts leash is probably short. We'll get to him. If that's a very interesting situation. And, you do get some longer leashes when you're a new coach as well. But Sirianni would be a whole nother topic. So your thoughts on the 2020 season?
They were co-favorites coming in. They were expected to win double-digit games, and it was a massive underwhelming performance from them. From week 1 till week 16, they were the first team out of the NFC East eliminated from contention, even though the entire 2020 campaign, it was like, if they could just put it together, if they could just flip the switch, if they just get a couple guys healthy, they could go on a roll and they could run away with this dog shit division. And they never did. And they never did. They never did. The low light what was the low point of the season? Was it tying Cincinnati in week 3 as an 0-2 team to save your season? You go, you're hosting Cincinnati and you tie 23-23. That was a pretty decent low light. How about there were the losing to the Giants off of the bye. That was incredibly underwhelming. I thought, there were a lot of lowlights for the 2020 campaign, and it all circled around Carson Wentz. And you brought it up, we don't really know who's to blame. I thought that way too, because going into the season, they had some tough injuries in the offensive line. We didn't really know how Carson Wentz was going to play under pressure. And I was like, well, maybe he was just bad because, it's just, he just didn't have cohesive line. And now, I broke down the data in preparation for this pod. He was the 32nd best quarterback with no pressure last year.
Yeah.
So it did not matter if he was under pressure or if he had a clean pocket. He could not perform the role of quarterback for the Eagles. And it was like the locker room kind of fell apart. Obviously, Doug Peterson leaves after the season because he just looked like he was having no fun whatsoever. I think that was a mutual agree to part ways sort of deal. The future of this franchise and really what their vision was for the 2021 season, it presents one of the greater uncertainties on the board. Like, we really don't know what to expect. They get a lot of players back coming off of injury, but they're all old. They got a lot of important pieces, including coach and quarterback, that are huge question marks. And they are in a very weak division, but they somehow have a very difficult schedule. So it is a complete, murky crystal ball when it comes to the 2021 campaign for this Eagles team. And I don't think it's unfair to put them in the basement of the NFC East in terms of expectation. But at the same time, this could be one of those teams where you happen to have a pretty decent upside. I'm trying to approach these Eagles with an open mind, even though they burned me last year. I lost a lot of money betting the Eagles last year. And it's tough to kind of put that behind me. And I want to hang the blame around Carson Wentz. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, something you just brought up is how bad he was without pressure. So of all the situations you could have as a quarterback, I suppose not having any pressure on you would be the best. So that's best case scenario. So you can about imagine it's not like he suddenly got better when he was pressured. And what I just talked about, all the injuries to the offensive line, the complete lack of cohesiveness. They started how many different lineups at offensive line. So you can about imagine what the pressure was like. He got obviously worse under pressure. And then the fact that
under pressure, he was so bad.
Very, very, very,
but
very
even
bad.
with no pressure.
And then you add the receiver, the injuries. There was nothing that was going to go right. It was just kind of doomed to fail. The way he had his steady decline in, his career, combined with all the injuries, combined with the front office strife, the coaching strife, him and Peterson kind of not getting along as well. And it was just kind of doomed to fail from the get-go. So I do put a lot of blame on just what's the opposite of progression, the regression of Carson Wentz. But, you throw that in with all the bad luck with injuries. You're going to end up with a 4-win season. And again, maybe good. Same thing for you as we get into this. High volatility team, high variance. Either, Jalen sucks. He's never going to cut it as a quarterback, or he's going to be very good.
Well, I didn't even think it doesn't even have to be he sucks. He could just be kind of 24th best quarterback in the NFL. That wouldn't shock me, right? That wouldn't shock you either.
I would put that in the sucks category. That's what I'm saying.
Isn't that kind of what we expect from him?
Yeah, the run game is nice, and we've seen teams be able to take advantage of that. Another team we're going to talk about, the Giants have been able to take advantage of, Daniel Jones, some of his running. Obviously, Lamar has been great. If you can get someone in who can call plays, and designed runs, and make that work, that's going to be great. But at the same time, I'm not sold on the kid. It's just we haven't seen enough of him for me to make real educated decisions on this team. And then you bring in the coach, who do you remember much about his play calling style in Indy?
I don't remember much about it, actually.
Because he didn't call plays.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Bailing me out. That was not sure.
That's the joke.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wait, well, let's save a little.
Yeah. What are we working with here?
Yeah. Let's save a little bit of that discussion and what we do about that for later. But I think the last kind of point I wanted to put a bow on this 2020 season, and why I have some teeny tiny cautious optimism about this team, not just because the rest of the division sucks, but Wentz really was remarkably poor last year. And we brought up all of the reasons why they were contributing factors. It was a perfect storm of horrible. But like he couldn't, like every time they were in the red zone, it was literally like, I can't watch this. Like he's gonna turn it over. He's, something bad's gonna happen. Like they were obvious, easy things for him to do to provide winning football plays for the Eagles in a lot of these games, in primetime ones in particular. I'm thinking of the Seattle game. I'm thinking of the for sure the Giants game, for sure. The Bengals game. Oh yeah, the Rams game. Oh my God, that one was bad. There were a number of games where he really could do nothing right. And I feel like if you get a little bit, we saw. You remember when the Eagles played the Saints after they pulled the rug on Wentz, and Jalen Hurts is now officially the starter, and they beat the Saints 24-21, and it was like, oh my God, we're 4-8-1, and somehow we're not eliminated. At that time, I was literally like, okay, like Hurts is obviously, like my opinion at the time, Hurts was obviously the best quarterback in that quarterback room, like obviously. Yeah. And they started
and they didn't have much of a scout on him yet, so he played well.
Right, he played well, but just the fact that he was behind an offensive line that couldn't block, and he was able to scramble and make plays with his legs, on top of just not being somewhat of an unknown quantity with his arm, and just really not making the back-breaking negative plays that keep you from winning football. Like he did it. And he had them in that game the next week against the Cardinals. Unfortunately, they lose, and the air kind of comes out of the season. The next week second week in a row on the road, they get blanked by the Cowboys, and it's all over. And then they, of course, lose on purpose in Week 17.
2017 Deshaun Kaiser. That's not that. Like, I hate making that comparison because Carson Wentz was not that bad, and he had probably a worse situation almost. But the like that. Do you remember that feeling of impending dread when they get into the red zone? Like, what is
100%? I do. Like, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Like, yes. when they get into the red zone, you're like, there's more likely to be like a safety than a touchdown here. Like, this is just. Well, I don't know what is going to happen, and it was never anything good. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. So, all right, let's pop to the odds.
Let's look at our odds for 2021. They're not good. No. This is a team that, again, very similar roster to last year, with the exception of we replaced Carson Wentz with Jalen Hurts, and we have getting a lot of healthy pieces back, and the win total for this season has fallen from 10 to 6.5, even though we have another game. Interestingly enough, I think all of those odds off the tops to win the Super Bowl 75-1, to win the NFC 30-1. You completely forget about it. Those are wasted. Those are wasted plays. To win the NFC East at 5-1. I've looked at this number a lot this offseason, because in the back of my head, I'm like, these teams all have a huge fatal flaw, and just betting the number might be the right call, but I have not pulled the trigger, and I will not pull the trigger, and we will talk about that more why later. But 5-1 is a reasonable, that's an interesting number to me. To make the playoffs, yes, is insane. If you're going to bet the Eagles, just bet them to win the East. They are not getting a wild card. Do you agree with me?
It's not a wild card team.
No, absolutely not. And then their regular season win total at 6.5. It opened at a flat -110, and it's bet up to -165. Your reaction?
Still an easy-ish division, not the easiest schedule. We get to the schedule next, and it's interesting because I think this would be a good time to talk about your to win the NFC East bet. Like, we looked at the schedules kind of overarching last week. We're going to get more specific. We have an Eagles-specific schedule pull up here. Like, have you looked ahead at that, and have you looked at the other divisional foes and said, like, here's maybe, is it good to, would it be better to get in on the Eagles later? I think the answer is probably no, just based on, like, they're a dog 13 out of 14 out of 17 weeks, I believe. They're not favored until late in the season when you get Washington and the Giants. Here we have it up on the screen. They're a pick 'em at Detroit. I mean, truthfully, like, Detroit's kind of similar situation, different quarterback coming from somewhere else, or and a new coach. But like Detroit, if they play halfway decent, like that's a tough. You got to go and play in their dome. You lose that game, that's the season's over,
Yeah,
I suppose.
now you're talking about, are we going to win a game? Yeah.
And
if you get to that point and you lose, you're talking about, are we going to win? Yeah.
Are we going to win a game? And that's what I'm saying. So, like, to start the season, Atlanta, San Francisco, Dallas, kind of all same teams kind of in flux, where you have a new head coach, an aging quarterback in Atlanta, the Niners getting everybody, including a quarterback back from injury, with a new quarterback in the room, highly drafted. So who knows with that? And then Monday Night Football at Jerry World, team getting Dak back, still probably a really suspect defense. Like, I think I'm going to judge them off those games and make some decisions. But then at the same time, like, if I make my decision, it's like, well, am I betting them hosting KC? Like, we probably wait for after that game. So if I'm feeling decent about the Eagles, maybe after the KC game, as it brings their market down a little more. But even then, you have Tampa Bay on the cusp. Boy, where is the easiest spot here? At Vegas, Detroit. They don't have an easy spot until like week 12.
No, their first 3 home games all suck. You get San Francisco coming off of their concentrated week in Greenbrier. You get KC as an 8-point dog at home, Tampa as a 7.5-point dog at home. Basically, your two toughest games in your schedule both happen to occur at your house. You know, this is a stark contrast to what we're just about to talk about with the Giants in a second. But you know, those are low win probability games.
Yeah.
26%, 20%. That sounds about right to me. A lot of other coin flips on here, though. I mean, you know, but they're mostly on the road.
Kind of starting in week 12. And I think if they are a bad team and the rest of the division is scuffling right along, similar to last week, maybe they're worth a look heading to the Giants. If you feel like betting them at the Giants, you may as well bet them to win the division. If like Dallas or Washington hasn't run away with something at that point, maybe there. But I suppose it's preseason or wait until midway through the year, because I don't see some early season entry point that I'm excited about.
Not at all. Not at all. And really the theme that is going to carry through all of our discussion about the NFC East is there is no rush. There really is no rush. You have your last 4 games are all against NFC East opponents. If Nick Sirianni figures it out as a coach, if Jalen Hurts has a little swagger, you know, a little more swagger, if he's covering spreads and winning coin flips, I'm going to be considering Philadelphia. You're probably still going to have around 5-1 at that point in time. I do not think there is going to be a huge shift in any of these teams from the NFC East in terms of their power number. Right now, the implied power number for Philly is -3, so they would be 3-point dog to an average team in the NFL. And again, like, this does feel like a lot of a big shift from last year in terms of expectation. 1 year ago, you know, this was a 10-win team. This was a co-favorite of the division. People were talking about them as a long shot Super Bowl pick. And all we've done is replace Carson Wentz with Jalen Hurts, and we've replaced Doug Peterson with Nick Sirianni. We don't know anything about that second swap, but the first swap might have been an upgrade ultimately. And this is a big downgrade on this team otherwise when they're going to get healthy players back. So I still, if you had to gauge my temperature on these guys, I'm cautiously optimistic that they will be a team that I will be betting on to cover big numbers, to win coin flips, and then ultimately maybe to win the NFC East. But at this point in time, I'm not rushing to do any of that because the uncertainty is bananas.
I think I'm with you there. Like, maybe more of a bet on team during the season after we see, like, if Hurts looks good, if he's gelling, you know, you get a bunch of receivers back and healthy. Just kind of a weird receiver room also. Like, remember when Fulgham was like the best receiver in the league for like 2 weeks? Like, you know, obviously not repeating itself.
Is Greg Ward Sr. coming back? That's all.
Like we need to know a little more about Greg Ward Sr. But yeah, they had some guys step up in the absence of that. And, you know, I don't say like, oh, Tyler Fulgham, let's look at some offensive player of the year. Nobody's going to give you a number on that anyway. But they did add probably my favorite player to watch in college football over the last season. Like, you know, if we see some sort of connection there and this offense clicks a little, like, it's definitely a bet on team. You know, especially if they get anything going with that passing game with the young quarterback, really young receiver. I think we can have a team that can backdoor a bunch of games, keep it close against good teams. You saw those spreads on that last slide where we had the the previous slide up for the schedule, there wasn't a lot of like massive numbers. So, they're going to have to be close games. You're not going to get 10-point spreads in some of these. And I don't know, maybe they will if KC plays well and they don't, but there's going to be, opportunities to bet this team for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess speaking of starting over, the offensive line, I think, is an important place to start here because these guys had an absolutely unparalleled cluster injury across the offensive line. We've said this like 3 different ways now, but just for accounting purposes, I don't think their right guard coming into the season, Brandon Brooks, I thought he finished out the 2019 campaign as a clear top 10 interior lineman in the NFL. Clear. And he was in his prime, and he tore his Achilles and didn't take a snap last year.
Ripped the shit out of it.
Presumably, he will have had a year's recovery and will be an effective interior offensive lineman this year for the Eagles. Similarly, Andre Dillard, bicep injury, missed the entire season, I believe. And then Lane Johnson, who was one of the top 10 tackles in football, had like just a gruesome ankle situation last year. And, I can expect Dillard as a younger player coming off the bicep is going to be effective this year. At least he was a first-round draft pick. He has the quality. He should be good. He's young. Lane Johnson, I'm less convinced. It was so bad and so consistent, and he played through it, and it kept getting worse. I'm a little nervous we've seen the best of Lane Johnson.
He kept trying, and after a while, it's like, man, you guys, you might make the playoffs, but maybe you should just go get better. It felt like a negative EV move for Mr. Johnson. I mean, a cluster injury of that, maybe only eclipsed by the cluster injury at receiver over the last year. Although some of them all, can you really call it a cluster injury when it involved Deshaun Jackson? Like, Deshaun Jackson's going to get hurt.
No, you write that in pen that he's going to miss time.
Yeah, he's gonna have an awesome 80-yard bomb sometime early in the season, but he's also gonna miss like 7 games. Like, that's just kind of especially at this point of his career. So, and maybe you say you're cautiously optimistic. I'm saying it's a team I could bet on against the spread as a decent dog, something over a field goal against some of these teams. I'm fine with that, but I do want to see consistent. If shit goes like this again and they're just injured, it's just a team I'm tossing out for the most part.
100%. So what are your thoughts on what they did with the draft in terms of new additions? They bring in Devontae Smith. Obviously, he was the Heisman winner out of Alabama, the second of the 2 Alabama wide receivers drafted, however. And I thought everybody pretty clearly identified that was a need for them entering the draft. And so they addressed that. Good job by you. And then they did not do a ton to address the needs in the secondary. Like, that is still a glaring weakness for this team. They are going to get passed on. And in fact, I can see them needing to score into the 30s to win the games that they are in, because they are going up against a number of relatively competent quarterbacks this year. Would you agree with me that pass defense is sort of the Achilles heel?
Yeah, it didn't work out, and I'm trying to look up right now what they gave up to get Mr. Slay. It was a lot, and it was his worst year. Like, that didn't help.
They look like they bought past the prime on Slay.
Yeah, if you go out and
past his expiration date,
you get a name like that, and that's what you get. Like, your secondary is going to be bad. It's not going to be any better this year. And they drafted someone in the 4th round that I don't know from Texas Tech. They drafted a safety very late. I think they drafted a bunch of defense. And then also they did draft an offensive lineman, not a first rounder, but an Alabama kid from, the center, Landon Dickerson, excuse me. How bad can he be? He's an SEC lineman. It helps to get some depth there, if nothing else. I guess outside of Devonta Smith, maybe being an instant impact, I wasn't terribly excited about the draft.
Yeah, same.
It's tough when you have that many holes.
I don't really know what to think of Devontae Smith. Like, he could be an amazing wide receiver in the NFL, or he could be too small for the league. I really could not tell you. We may not know that answer for a couple of years. I don't know how well. I mean, he should presumably have some chemistry with Jalen Hurts. There's a lot of similar concepts and what they've been through in history in terms of learning offense. So that might be a good fit. Good mesh. And really overall, Fulgham, Rieger still has pedigree, even though if he's not going to be an amazing wide receiver in the NFL. And they have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, although we would expect Zach Ertz is probably a long shot to make the team, just considering his contract situation. So, I think they have the offensive weapons. If the offensive line is healthy, and then I think this is an offense that can score into the high 20s, low 30s. This defense, however, is lopsided. They lose Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator. He's gone. Surly Jim Schwartz is gone. And his heavy reliance on the defensive line is now all of a sudden, okay, well, we have some good defensive linemen. We're paying a lot of money who are old. And then we have some linebackers and some secondary players who might suck.
Yeah, I think they will suck. Good front four, probably. The rest of the defense, problems. Yeah, it's a rebuild year. To put a bow on what we think, it's probably a rebuild year. And I think everybody involved is fine with that. Even if you're front office, I think Lurie is fine, I guess. It's new coach, young quarterback. What kind of expectations can you really lay on that? So if it's a rebuild year, it's a rebuild. Yeah. And
6.5 wins out of a 17-game schedule. Expectations are low, man.
Yeah, they're low. So if Hurts plays well, if the offense is good, you're going to see both of them and Sirianni lauded for that because the expectations are very low. And again, I think everybody involved is fine with it. It's a rebuild. That's a lot of these teams we touch on early on Monday, it's going to be a rebuild.
If everything goes right, if they win their coin flips, if Sirianni's approach to calling an offense is plus EV, is he going to be in the discussion for coach of the year with 10 wins?
Yeah, I think for sure. You win this division or come
10-7, he's going to be in the conversation.
Man, doing it with a young quarterback like that, never coaching before, for sure. It depends. It's dependent on what everybody else does, but at the same time, yeah, I think so. 10, 11 wins get you there.
Okay, but if they get it done, we agree it's going to be because of the offense.
Yeah. No, we're expecting passing offense has to work.
The passing offense has to work, right? And so it kind of comes down to scheme, which is the huge unknown still, which is, I think, why this is an easy pass pre-flop.
And I kind of set you up and punked you there a little bit, Sirianni's play calling. But I would think we could extrapolate some of the things we saw in Indy, and say that maybe we see something similar.
I don't know, man.
I think Olsen just hooked one foul to lose to Mancini in the first round here. I got the home run derby on too, obviously.
Oh, did you? I should have taken Mancini. We talked a long time about taking Mancini and ended up with the hometown kid. Was that the first one to go off?
We almost
24 to 23. Mancini and Olsen. Was that one of the ones we bet on the over under? I don't think it was. But 24 and 23, those guys both made it over their number.
Yeah, we're getting over the 200.
We're getting over the
30 or whatever it is. Okay. They are flying. So, all right, coaching. Let's
So I know it's a mystery. It's a mystery card to me. New defensive scheme that I don't think will work. This is probably going to finish a bottom 5 defense in the NFL. That's just my gut. And the offense is a complete unknown. Because honestly, I don't really know that I really have a solid grasp on what a Frank Reich offense is, to be honest with you. It's got some concepts that I love and some stuff that I absolutely hate. And I think he's still figuring some things out in terms of how to run a team, because he's never had an especially good or effective quarterback. I mean, Rivers was absolutely serviceable last year. He was very serviceable, but couldn't elevate the players around him to the tune of getting through to the second round of the playoffs. So I have so little to project on Sirianni. I don't even know where to start.
And I mean, last year when he was with I mean, basically, if you like try to do any research on this, you're gonna get fluff articles like Lane Johnson really likes how Sirianni's taking control of the team. Like,
hate that shit.
What the fuck am I gonna glean from that? But I did find something from 2 years ago where working with Reich, they were implementing their up-tempo multiple tight end offense. I don't know how that works when you're probably trading or cutting one of your tight ends, and you're good tight end. Obviously, and Mr. Dallas is coming along quite nicely for a young man too. But if you don't have the weapons to work with, it becomes tricky to run an offense. So yeah, super big mystery. This is maybe one of the bigger mystery teams. Do we have any other ones that are, besides the Jets,
the Texans
the Texans don't count as an NFL team? That's hilarious. But
I think we know a lot about the Jets. Actually, I think we can put the puzzle pieces together on the Jets.
We do,
well.
But I'm saying new coach, new quarterback. Like new coach, new quarterback makes it tricky. So Sirianni, if anybody has any Sirianni nuggets, by all means, at Deep Dive Pod, you can see our Twitters here. Yeah. Hit us with it. If you've heard something, I'd love to hear it because I don't have a good read on the guy.
The market doesn't either because the first takeaways were basically like, this is a terrible hire because I don't know who it is. Well, that's not a good reason to have. No, it's not a reasonable opinion. So it's tough for me to really. Yeah, I mean, I just don't have a pulse on what to expect from this guy at all. It could be, and honestly, the fact that expectations are so low, the contrarian in my heart wants to be like, bet on him because he'll get lots of credit because people will be like, well, I did not expect that. Let's give him some credit. You know what I mean? You know how that goes. Anyway, let's move on.
I do.
No bets on the Eagles.
Yeah, no bets. I mean, and our last point we had there was injury, returns from injury. We kind of touched on a lot of that already with the offensive line. Some of the guys we think they're going to matter, some that don't. The Ertz thing, he's probably gone. The rest of the I do worry. I worry about Devonta Smith. Like, can a team really be like cursed in the sense of that, like drafting a receiver? I don't think it's a thing. But like Arcea Whiteside has like, what's his like a third year? Well, like if they draft a guy or Rager, it's like they miss and they missed on Jefferson, Aguilar.
Yeah.
So, T's and P's to him because I mean he has a slight frame, but man, he's fast, he's shifty, and he's very good. Like watching him at like questionable health in that playoff game, it's like, Christ, this guy's super good. So I almost, as much as the Eagles fans are awful and I kind of hate them from that one time the Vikings played him, I honestly, for you Eagles fans, I hope that Smith is good. Because you deserve a good receiver at some point again. It's been a while.
Yeah. I think we're going to end up talking about the Eagles a lot this year because I think the market's going to take its sweet time making up its mind one way or the other about them after we get a couple of results. This is not one where I think there's going to be quick action with the market. So it's one that we should take our time with. Let's move on to the Giants. Go for it. Man. What did you think of the Giants' 2020 season? Was it as successful as Dave Gettleman would like us to believe?
And remember, the joke was, and we made this numerous times, was maybe they'll be better now that Saquon's hurt. Like Saquon hurt, not a bad thing. But when you have
what was your favorite Saquon stat line from last season? Was it the 8 rushes for -8 yards or whatever, or 16 rush? He had a couple of performances early where they were force feeding him aggressively, and it was going absolutely nowhere. And they literally looked like I guess it reminded me of the Titans playoff performance where it was like they thought as soon as they got to 20 attempts, he was going to break a big one. And so we're going to get him to 20 one way or the other. And it was like everyone in the field knows it's coming. This is like beyond predictable at this point. And there was no creativity. There was no inspiration at all in that offense. And Saquon Barkley was, I guess without looking, he played how many games?
Was it like what's your 3?
Guess? He played 2 games.
2.
And in those 2 games, do you want to guess? He had 19 carries for 34 yards.
And, in that very small sample size, and I've seen stats from the year before, like the fact that he's getting hit in the backfield isn't helping. Like he's a good player. We don't love, don't get us wrong. Like we dig on him a lot. And the reason is not because we don't like him as a player. We don't like how he's used, and we don't like where he was drafted. That's the digs. The dig isn't on Saquon. It's for sure on the management taking him so high and how they've decided to use him in the offense. But yeah, if the offensive line is going to play the way they play, and he's getting hit in the backfield, I think there's a point where he was the worst running back in the league, and it's not even a running back stat really. He was the worst running back in the league as far as yards before contact. Like he was getting hit the instant he was touching the ball. That's how you end up with stat lines like that. If you want to have a stud running back like that, you have to invest in the offensive line and probably an offensive coordinator. Like I'm not sure JG is the answer to this as well.
Well, that's actually why there are a couple of reasons that I am immediately cool on the Giants and their potential this season, but Jason Garrett is at the top of that list.
Yeah.
There is absolutely and honestly, that brings into question for me the decision making of Joe Judge, the decision making of Dave Gettleman. Like if you can't self scout and realize we should probably go a different direction in terms of offensive coordinator to see if we actually have something in Daniel Jones, they said you run it back and you're like, maybe continuity will bring out the best in Daniel Jones. That is a red flag for me. And I am expecting low things of the Jason Garrett offense. And I think 2020 proved that he doesn't have an NFL offense really for the year 2021. And he didn't have an NFL offense for the Cowboys the last couple of years. He was the main decision maker there, to the tune of they put the kid what's the name of the offense coordinator for Dallas? It's escaping me.
Kellen Moore.
They put Kellen Moore in charge, and Kellen Moore called 3 brilliant games in 2019 before Jason Garrett polluted his mind into, no, we need to do it this way, and regressed him as a play caller. And that's
that Jason Witten film from 5 years prior.
Oh my God.
Use this guy.
It's not good, man. It's not good. And realistically, if you have high expectations for Daniel Jones, cool your jets. If you have high expectations for the Giants offense, cool your jets. I did not see any progression, any growth, any positives really across all of their film from last year, across all of their results from last year. And that's tough to say because otherwise, like, there's some really bright spots about this team. And it's, what else is really kind of like really rubs me the wrong way about these guys, and maybe like I have to check my bias, make sure I'm not rooting against them. But why you are okay? Well, in my mind, it sucks that Dave Gettleman really hasn't been punished for his terrible team building decision making, particularly at the top of the drafts. Right. He really hasn't been punished for taking a Saquon Barkley 2nd and Daniel Jones 6th and, stocking up on, on defensive linemen. Right. Like he's gotten some very lucky calls. Plucking Bradbury, for instance, was the best, bar none, the best free agent signing of all of the 2020, of all that 2020 cycle. And he's gotten a little bit lucky here and there to make up for the really, really bad things that he's done. And so he really hasn't had to pay any consequence for a team building vision that I just fundamentally disagree with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I actually read the Football Outside, we got the Football Outsiders preview in. If you like good reading, that's always a good one. We'll definitely give them pub, but I should figure out who wrote this. It was Mike Tanier. Wrote the Giants one, and not a lot. I mean, a lot of it was stuff I already have in my head, and it honestly, he was almost hedging a little, saying like, some of the stuff can work despite what Kettleman had said. It's echoing what you said, but he had a great line. I went and found it too. He's like, the offense should be fun this season, or fun to watch. When Danny Dimes drops back to pass something. And then in parentheses, a long gain, a drop pass, a strip sack, a stumble, scramble is going to happen. Like that's true. Like this is another team that'll probably be fun to watch. I like Daniel Dimes. I like Mr. I'm trying to Ingram. Like they have some pieces, but yeah, it does feel like if this roster were constructed by a better GM, this team would be a lot further. They would be, probably a favorite to win this division just with the spots they've had in the draft. If they had drafted a little more sanely and moved this team forward, they'd be in a lot better position overall as a franchise. And here they are, in the third favorite in a horrible division again. So yeah, the 2020 season was what it was. Like that's always kind of what this team was going to be. It was a quarterback in flux. They weren't sure what they had. I'm glad they played him. I'm glad they are, seeing what they have because they have some decisions to make going forward, probably after this season. And, going forward, I'm not that much, my opinion hasn't really changed that much on the Giants, I guess.
Yeah, no, I want to save some of the best kind of takes here for when we get sort of to the little rundown there. But we can move on from the 2020 season, which I would say was a failure. Honestly,
yeah.
I think they needed to see more out of their offense. They needed to see more out of Daniel Dimes to figure out what to do in the future. And if we can't answer that question, then certainly they can't answer that question. And if they didn't make any other moves besides doubling down on, some wide receivers who are, maybe they'll make a difference. Kenny Golladay, do you think he's an A1 difference maker? Is Evan Ingram a bona fide, offensive weapon tight end? Is he ever going to learn how to catch? Is Kadarius Toney, was that a reach drafting him at 20th overall? I mean, like, none of these moves to bring in weapons to try to improve Danny Dimes' bottom line stats to me look like no doubt hit correct decisions, right?
If you had to pick your favorite move, though, the one that the most likelihood of being successful, like it's Golladay, right? Like it wasn't like some star wide receiver sweepstake, but I mean, he's a top 20 receiver, and it wasn't the best situation where he was at either. So like, if he can improve the quarterback play by having another weapon, I think that's the biggest one. Like Golladay is the biggest one for me. Dory Jackson's been in and out of injuries, and I mean, we'll get to that, I guess.
I guess if you were saying what's your highest confidence decision that Gettleman made this offseason, I probably am saying it's Adoree Jackson just because of the success he had bringing in Bradbury. So maybe he can evaluate the
that's a good point. Like, yeah, that maybe it's like certain teams, it's, like the Steelers drafting wideouts. Like, they drafted a wideout. This kid's probably going to be good.
Plus, like the defense is good enough overall that it may make Jackson look better, right? Like they could just be good enough overall that's like, wow, man, like they're only asking Jackson to go 1v1 versus the second best option on the other team. Like he's doing great, like they're getting a lot out of that guy for not a huge contract. But the offense, I guess Galloway, only because there were times when it felt like he was the straw that stirred the drink for Matt Stafford. When it felt like when he was on the field, it helped Matt Stafford be the best quarterback he could be.
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones also. So, and maybe he is that level of impact player still, but we only saw it for a fleeting moment with Galladay. And I don't know Galladay. I don't know if he has more of that.
And I guess maybe my favorite move of their offseason was trading their first round pick until they made their pick.
And they did it. They were very clever. And then
it's like, oh, this is good. Like who are they targeting?
Screwed it all up.
Yeah, and Tony could be an excellent slot player, but I'm not getting good reports out of camp from him so far. Like there's some negative reports, and if you have a negative report this early, that's not great because usually this is, best shape of his life. Kid's really catching on to the offense. Like getting negative reports this early is rough. So yeah, my favorite move was trading the pick and then obviously screwing it up. But yeah, Galladay should be fine. Jackson was expensive for someone with that much injuries, and then maybe John Ross really got him cheap.
Yeah, let's look at this. Let's look at the odds.
All right, pull up the odds.
So the Eagles were 75 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. Giants 50 to 1, also unbettable. Eagles were 30 to 1 to win the NFC. Giants 25 to 1, also unbettable. NFC East plus 325. If you want to make that bet at this point and be pleasantly surprised because the Giants have an easy-ish schedule and a defense that is clearly top 5 this year, I will not stop you, but I will not be joining you. Too many things have to go right on the offense, and I just really struggle to find anything positive to say or think about the Jason Garrett experience. So playoffs, yes, again, is an insane bet. They only are getting in if they win the NFC East. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked it a lot already in anything we've done NFL in this offseason. The NFC is weaker. The NFC is not going to be as tough to get in the playoffs, but I don't think you're seeing a wild card out of the NFC East. So, yeah, let's not bet to make – if you're going to bet to make the playoffs, I'm probably just take them to win the NFC East. Like the odds of 2 of these teams hitting and really like at the same time both been like, oh, we're 12-win teams, and there's like this really good race down to the end to win the division. It's of a lower likelihood than just taking the better odds to win the East. It happens so infrequently that I'm not worried about losing that value on that at all. So the win total juiced heavily to the over. I'm sure you can find some 7s out there as well. Like if you really like the Giants, alt over. But again, like a defense is not going to carry a team in this day and age. And really, like how
many games did Washington win last year?
Yeah, not enough to make me impress with them. Like they made the playoffs, but
yeah, but they made their all over win total by a good margin.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like, but,
I guess yeah, no, but
they still won 7 games. We aren't like
yeah. What is?
I guess you could put a division.
Trevor Story beat Joey Gallo.
Gallo's got 45 seconds to hit 8 bombs, to hit 7 bombs. This is going to come right. He's in a groove right now.
We got that middle though. We got that middle though because Trevor Story hit his over 20. Gallo can only get 21.
Every one of these is going so far right now.
Oh, so Gallo's going to go through, but we're going to hit that middle. Right?
I don't know. Like I think he just popped one up. All right, he lost his groove.
Okay. All right. Well, last sort of thought here. On this, on these odds, the over 6.5. I've seen 7s out there. I've seen 6.5s out there. Neither one is. I would in no way lay juice on 6.5. That is a insanity. Shop around, find a better number if you have confidence in the Giants. And again, do so with your eyes open, knowing that it's based entirely on the fact that they're going to hold teams to 20 points. And every game that Danny Dimes does not fumble away the lead, you may get a win.
The pitchers who don't cheat are doing worse. That's always how this works. But yeah, I fully agree on that. And yeah, if you wanted to bet the alt over, I think, are you really gonna find an alt over that's like 3.5 to 1? You can probably find a division price that you'll like better. So if you really do believe in the Giants, I think, again, the division prices were to attack. Let's look at the schedule again to see if there's some sort of entry point or anything funny going on. Easier schedule than Philly, I think. I mean, just based on some of these numbers that have minuses in front of them. Look at that. They're only a 1 point. Well, I mean, 1 point dog to start. They're a favorite in week 3.
More coin flips, especially early.
Yeah, a lot more coin flips. Obviously, 2 really, really hard games. Like they just, 15 and 2 is the ceiling here because the going to Kansas City, going to Tampa Bay in that short of a period of time, even off a bye, like they're getting 10 points off a bye going
2
to Tampa.
Auto Ls,
It's rough. So yeah, 2 Auto Ls. The Chargers at Chargers on a back-to-back. Going across the country from Miami, actually probably going back up to New Jersey.
That's rough. I think Story through. Is Story through?
Yep, Story went through.
2019. Wow, and we hit that middle. Unbelievable. Yes. Sorry to interrupt you. But your points are dead on the money here. Even look at their 3rd toughest game and by implied win probability. At the Chargers? Really?
Yeah.
Is that really that hard of a game? Like they got a huge break here schedule-wise compared to even the Eagles, who we just looked at. Who cares about those 2, scheduled losses? Honestly, I refuse to get positive about the Giants. I refuse. But if you were to really beat the drum hard that this schedule is soft, I will listen to you.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's like, oh, there's some, and really at the Chargers, that is a tough game. Like we kind of shit on the Chargers, but they have a good quarterback now, and if they're healthy, that is a very tough game to go play that game. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's not.
That is a beautiful under. Beautiful under.
Your third toughest game isn't like hosting the Ravens or bringing in, one of these other really high-end AFC teams. It is the Chargers. And then from there, it's, the New Orleans, Dallas, Rams stretch isn't great. Like that Rams number, that might be bettable just because.
I would agree with you 100%. That Rams number is bettable.
That's a tough spot for them coming off them. But yes, easier schedule, more coin flips. Look at the end of the schedule there, +1, +1.5, +2, -1.5 versus Dallas, at Philly, at Chicago, and hosting Washington. If there ever was a team that had a nice soft landing and the quarterback was getting it and the wide receivers that you brought in were gelling well and the offense was clicking, like this is a team that has a spot where it's like, all right, this is how we get to 9 wins. Like we're 5-8, but we can win these last 4. Just Aaron Rodgers run the table.
Yeah. This is a team that could sneak in. It absolutely is. If they stay healthy, if they keep their, if they win some coin flips, this is a team that is going to be live come late December. Absolutely true. Real quick, that week 14 Chargers game, they're +6 dogs in LA. And oh, by the way, what a treat for New Yorkers. Like we're going to send you on 3 road trips in the months of November and December. You're going to go to at Tampa, at Miami, at Chargers. Like, oh yeah, we'll send you some warm weather. Just really,
it's not
really.
So bad. You know what they should do?
Man.
You know what you should do? I mean, rent a boat.
Rent a boat.
Going to Tampa, Miami, going to
rent a boat.
LA.
Absolutely. Get a boat.
Maybe that's how you break that curse. You have to do it again. Yeah.
No, but real quick, that Chargers game week 14 of course in the underfull confines of SoFi Stadium. You want to guess what that total is?
43, 44?
It is 47. Bettable right now.
What?
At wherever you get your look at. It's 47. As I look at these totals.
Man, are you going to make me bet a total of 7-6 right now? Why is that so high?
I don't know. Honestly, as I look, okay, so looking at the power numbers,
uncertainty with our quarterback situation out there, I suppose. So he could be good, but I don't see it.
The way it is stacked up right now, the Giants are power ranked as a -2.5. And they are expected to have the bottom 7 defense and a top 6. So bottom 7 offense, top 6 defense. So basically, like this is a dead nut under team. Any way you want to slice it. And I'm not sure. I don't know the answer as to why. That total is as high as it is. I mean, the Chargers have a great passing offense, obviously, but that's going to be a tough test for them against this unit. Those guys are good. These guys are good cover corners.
I thought you were talking the Rams game. What's the Rams total?
You want to know what the Rams total is?
Yeah.
It is 45.5.
Still higher than I thought.
It is still higher.
No, I'd probably take both the SoFi unders. We're on it.
Well, the first one's in MetLife. The second one's in SoFi.
But MetLife unders.
Yeah. So, any situational schedule spots that really catch your eye there before we move off the schedule entirely? They get Dallas on the back of a third straight back-to-back-to-backy, but that is sandwiched between 2 trips, one of which is to the West Coast, and then 2 trips to the frigid North, Philly and Chicago. That's a 4 out of 5 in a row that are on the road.
Some of their back-to-backs aren't great. Like the Chargers, the Cowboys on the second half of a back-to-back. Essentially, we talk about this all the time. When you neuter a bye, like playing the best team in the conference is a good way to neuter the bye. Like that doesn't help playing Tampa, right? Like, oh yeah, we're off our bye. Oh, we're gonna get the shit kicked out of us. that's not any fun. So
that's not gonna help you much. No.
Yeah.
No.
Just overall, like,
and especially it's on a Monday. It's on a Monday, so then you got a quick turnaround, short week before you play Philly.
It's a fairly balanced schedule, though. I think there's not a 3. It's just that last stretch there. 4 out of the last 6 games and 4 out of 5 there on the road. Miami Chargers, Philly, Chicago. Philly, Chicago aren't the toughest teams, but it's still a lot of road games there. So I guess maybe that's a tough stretch. Although the KC and Tampa surrounding your buys, your 2 buys, you have the buy and then you have the Vegas buy.
Yeah.
Oh man, Pete Alonso is destroying the ball. I'm dead.
Oh no, Perez gets to go second though, so he knows exactly what he needs to do.
He needs to hit 30.
All right. Well, the schedule implies 7 wins. I think that's fair for this Giants team. The Giants power ranking by all the look aheads is -2.5. I think that's fair. That they're 2.5 points worse than an average team, but again, their defense is good enough that they're going to be in games. They're only going to have to do just enough. And is Sack being back what this offense needs in any like what role does he provide for this team where you're like, oh man, they really did miss him last year? Like what is it that or is it, are you going into this season with the same thinking we had last year, which is maybe he's a negative?
It would probably be the play calling more than him. He can only do what he does. Like, he's going to get the ball and run. It's going to be how they use him. Like 100%, it's on just the offensive coordinator. And that's where I'm not hopeful. I'm not excited about him ever. So like getting him back, I don't think it's like, we joke, but it's not a negative. Like having a better running back is good. But yeah, if they are going to force feed him, if they're going to use him like they've really wanted, like, oh, we got to get him the ball this many times, and we're going to be running on early downs, we're going to be running into stacked boxes. It doesn't matter because we have a good running back and we're smarter than them. Like that's where it's not going to be that much of a positive. Like what's the difference between an all-world running back and like Wayne Gallman if you're running into like 8-9 man boxes on early downs or something?
Gallman was kind of frisky.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, you're gonna get an extra quarter. Like, no, the only difference is putting extra hits on a guy who gets paid a lot more. That's the only difference.
Yeah, and let me be more fair in qualifying my question to you. The deal with Sack has always been boom or bust, which is the worst thing you want on your roster if you're running back, because the busts will kill your drives and the booms will come along randomly, and they may be in a game when you're down 2 scores and okay, now you're back in the game, or maybe in a game where you're up 2 scores and okay, well, we just put that one away. But the idea of it sustaining a winning football or keeping you in a game or keeping you within 1 score or answering a touchdown drive that your opponent makes doesn't help you with any of that, which is why he's a player that I just have no interest in rostering. But it is what it is. I guess does the explosiveness, does the fact that he can boom combined with some weapons in the passing game do anything for this Giants offense despite the potentially minus EV play calling? Ultimately,
no. I like,
yeah.
It's similar to like the Kellen Moore thing you brought up, like, or what we saw Seattle. Like, if the offense makes this big change, like, oh, we're gonna do this now. Like, yeah, you have the weapons to do it. You have a half decent quarterback who has legs, and you brought in some receivers, and you have a good receiver, and you got a running back who can do a few different things, maybe even play some slot. Like, if the offense changes, yeah, it could be a good team. But Sack back isn't like some huge positive for me, because again, if you use your running back the way they use running backs, it doesn't matter if you have Barry Sanders or Bernie Sanders out there. I don't know if he's playing running back.
No, we're in agreement. And honestly, like, the offensive line has not been upgraded either, which is somewhat problematic. Like Andrew Thomas, they picked him up first of a very, very strong offensive line class. He looks to be the worst out of those guys. So sorry about that.
He did improve in the second half of the season. And
sure.
I am kind of mad at you. I wanted to bring him up to prove I can remember his name.
Okay.
Remember, I couldn't remember his name.
And the rest of these guys, the rest of these guys are just. Oh yeah, no, I know. I kept calling him every other combination of generic name possible. I could never come up with Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Johnson.
Andrew Johnson, Thomas Jones. Okay, the rest of these guys, the other four guys now, it's offensive line outside of Andrew Thomas, do not have pedigree and they are not talented. What I guess. Is that the most obvious, easy, like lowest common denominator criticism you can levy at Gettleman if the things are not cohesive and do not look good to start this season? Like they didn't do anything about the offensive line. You need to give Danny Jones more time. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
like is that?
Yeah, again, like especially the way they, again, going back to how they want to run the ball, how they want to use the running back. If that's what you want to do on an offense, your offensive line has to be better. If you have a young quarterback who's maybe not all that accurate, your offensive line has to be better. If you want to do anything in life, your offensive line has to be better. It's an offensive league, and if you can't get your offensive line to protect your quarterback or block for your running backs, you're going to have an issue. Fucking Alonso just hit 34.
Aye.
Not great. This is not going to be Reese Hopkins for me this year.
Oh, sheesh, man. Alonso, yeah, I was worried about being on his side. That was one of our decisions. But anyway, let's move on to Danny Jones. As we head into the 2021 campaign, your expectation for him from a quarterbacking standpoint is he falls into what tier of ranking? Is it 15 to 20? Is it 20 to 25? Is it 25 to 30?
20 to 25.
Okay.
And, offensive line be damned. Like they did make some improvements for the receiving. They have a good receiver. They're getting, if they can use him in any decent way, they're getting a running back. Like he has some weapons around him. Thomas plays better, I guess. Yeah, I mean, if you can see any improvement from the offensive line, he can sneak inside that top 20. Plus, he's sneaky good. You can joke about him falling down that one time, but sneaky good with his legs. It's like if anybody played Tecmo, like the 1990, the 1991 series there was a Warren Moon play for the Oilers. If you guys don't know what the Oilers are, you're much younger than me, I guess. But the Oilers, and it was like this, all he would do is take it and then just turn around and run, like right up the gut. And like Jones has that play. It just reminds me of that. He scored on that. He had the long run. Like he has some good designed runs for a guy I didn't know who had legs. So like he has some skills. He's actually a really, really good deep ball thrower. Again, the sample sizes on that sort of thing are shitty, so you're not going to tell. But I mean, even if he mints it down to like 15 yards and over, he's a top five quarterback in the league on deep ball accuracy. So he has potential.
You know what I got to tell you though, man?
But
a ton of that was luck, not skill, because a lot of that was like third and fourth down fluky shit. Or they were, because like this is why you can't even really fairly evaluate Jones. They ran it so often on early downs that they were constantly facing long as shit third downs or long as shit third downs and very unlikely to make fourth downs late in the game down. Like you remember how like they were backdoor specialists last year. That was really all they had going for them for a lot of those games. Right. And honestly, the grading him is hard because you look at his stable quarterback metrics. They all suck, all of them. He was awful without play action. He was awful when he was in the pocket. He was awful with no pressure. He was good on third and fourth downs and in really long, asked to do the impossible. Sometimes he did it. And so like that kind of buoyed his grade. Otherwise, his EPA per pass was negative, really, which is wild. Like,
I would say too, like if you're going to grade long, deep passing against that sort of defense, I almost give it an upgrade. Like you're throwing deep passes into prevent defense. That's actually probably harder.
It is, but it's not. I don't know if it's repeatable.
No, that's the thing. Like those balls look good. Just the eye test. Like his deep ball looks good. Other than that, his short stuff is kind of sketchy. And yeah, like you said, some of his efficiency, some of his success rates are just not good. So probably in the 20 to 25 range. I'm not excited about him.
Yeah. Salvi Perez 10-1 live, by the way. Not looking good.
Yeah, he has like he's hit a couple double plays right at the shortstop.
Is that bat though? Is nice, right? The bat looks cool.
Well, can you imagine watching Alonso hit 34 and being like, "All right, I go up
that
there."
Expert at CBS Sports was right. Everybody's live except for.
Yeah, I can't. Next year, if they repeat, like experienced, you're talking like having an experienced guy.
Yeah, but here's my final thought on Jones. His EPA per play in the pocket last year, 32nd in the league. It was negative, tied with Drew Lock, a little bit better than Carson Wentz, a little bit better than Nick Foles, a little bit better than Sam Darnold. Like this is a little bit better than Dwayne Haskins. Like we're not asking questions about any of those guys if they still have it. We know they do not.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz may be the only exclusion because you can point to history where he was good at the NFL level, right? But we're not asking about any of those other guys. Like, is there a chance they could land in the middle of the pack? Could they be average NFL quarterbacks? We're not asking that. And yet Daniel Jones is still sort of in this we don't really know category with the dregs of the league, which is, it's tough to see. And I don't even know what he could do to truly improve short of, the obvious, like stop fumbling. Like that would be pretty important. But, realistically, I'm just not sure what to ask of him. And I know that Jason Garrett's not going to ask the right questions. So
yeah,
I don't even think it's worth spending time.
And truly, like where the Giants are, it's his third year. Like if he's the 25th best quarterback, it sucks because it's not a super quarterback rich draft next year. Like they missed it by a year, I guess. I don't know if they'd have lost like 3 more games last year, maybe they'd have taken a QB. So tough look. I mean, you got a receiver after signing a couple receivers. So, and again, I'm not excited about Tony. Big Evan Ingram guy, whatever. Evan Ingram,
Tony might not see many snaps, honestly. Like Slayton is good, Shepard is good, Galladay is good. They got John Ross there too. He might be something. Tony might be a very lightly used rookie, which again, head scratcher. Why not take somebody who could improve your offensive line's performance instead of reaching for Tony at that point? But that's all water under the bridge now. Let's give the defense a little bit of shine for the Giants.
I think you think it's going to be a little better than I do.
Okay.
Like I'm in on a possible top 10. I'm not sure if I'm top 5. And maybe tell me why you think it'll be top 5.
I really like the coordinator. I really like his scheme. Patrick Graham was, I thought, and again, like the Giants did so many things wrong, but they're not being punished for it because they're in an easy-ass division and because they hit on a couple of absolute grand slams. One of them was Bradbury. One of them was Graham, in my opinion. And they have enough talent on the defensive line that they're going to be able to stop the run. So they're going to be able to keep, they're going to keep themselves in games just like they did last year. They're going to have backdoor chances if they could score. And I honestly, like, it's going to be extremely tough for any team that comes in pass first to find room against the secondary. I have a high grade on Logan Ryan. I have a high grade on, I have an extremely high grade on Bradbury. I have a decent grade on Holmes, the slot quarterback. I have a decent grade on Jackson, who's coming off injury, but still as one of the more impressive players from an individual performance at the cornerback position over the last handful of years. Now, cornerback, basing any decisions on the way cornerbacks are grading is stupid because they're a little bit random. Year to year, you get weird. The best guy in the league the next year can come in and be an absolute bum. We've seen that for sure. You could argue that about Adoree Jackson even in his career. That one year he was coming in absolutely white hot and then just was a nothing burger. But for sure, there are a lot of solid pieces in the secondary. The scheme is excellent. They can generate interior pressure with the likes of Williams and Lawrence. And they have some young, fresh legs, talent-wise, from a pass rushing standpoint. That I don't think they're going to get eye-popping sacks, but they'll get coverage sacks because there's just not a lot of openings to really pass on this team. I don't really know what offense I would say matches up especially well against this Giants team. And honestly, if you come in with a vanilla offensive scheme like Seattle did last year, they're gonna eat your lunch. And I think that was sort of the quintessential game that I see needs to happen a lot this season for the Giants to make their win total or to be competitive in the NFC East. Like, they need to just have those games where their defense just throttles, shuts down a lesser prepared opponent, and the offense does just enough and they don't turn it over. And so, I think that there are kind of a lot of contributing factors here, but just on the basis of the way they like to play, the way they will play, and the fact that they're going to be in some low scoring, knockdown, drag out type of contest is why I'm sort of I'm bullish on this defense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just I think it's tough if the offense doesn't get there, the defense is going to have a hell of a time. I'm a Blake Martinez guy. I like what you said about Logan Ryan. I think he was a corner at one point.
Yes, he was.
I feel like he moved to safety.
System.
Yeah. So then, and again, like Adoree Jackson injured a bunch. We don't know. He's still probably going to be better than. No, he's going to be better than whatever they had before, and that's a testament to Bradbury. And Bradbury did start the season playing a certain side of the field. I don't know which side, but he ended up being that guy, like one of those guys. Like, all right, we're putting him on this receiver this week, so he ended up moving around a lot, which is tough. Going to different sides of the fields, even I'm assuming he probably played some slot in there too. Like, moving around like that and still playing that well when your other corners are, not good, maybe not even replacement level, testament. So if Jackson plays well, him and Bradbury, all of a sudden, if you had two shutdowns and then Peppers and Ryan playing safety, like a really good secondary is more important than almost anything on defense. We joke about who was it, Booger? Booger said that one time before a draft, and Booger says stupid stuff, like just painfully Magic Johnson type stuff. But he said something like, if you draft players that can help your passing game or players that can hurt their passing game, you're going to do good in this league during a draft. I'm like, God damn it, Booger. I mean, that's right. Like, sir, you've nailed it. And having, it's a passing league. So, I mean, off-ball linebackers aren't what they want. Linebackers are so much faster now. They're almost like a bunch of strong safeties everywhere. But having a good coverage unit and a half decent pass rush, you're going to be in games.
I completely agree with you. And honestly, maybe I've just kind of talked myself into a circle here, and the Giants are just an under team for me. And I'm just going to bet their unders until people catch up to this as a top 5 potential.
If the offense is broken and this defense plays well, this is the kind of team that loses.
Most total on the board,
22 to 6. Yeah.
You know what? Here is the dream scenario. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
There are 2 opening totals, week 1, week 2, against Denver and at Washington. Right? That Washington game is a Thursday night football game, first of all. Dream scenario that those are fluky high-scoring games. There's turnovers. There's defensive scores. We get 50 points in each of those games. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the totals start to people anchor. Oh yeah, no, the Giants actually maybe they're an over team. They've gone over twice, and then they go on a run of Atlanta, New Orleans, Dallas, Rams, and I can see a very solid case for you're getting high 40s, low 50s in some of those games, and just nuking those unders. That is the dream scenario. So we just need some lucky high scoring in those first couple weeks against Denver and Washington. Some fluky games. That's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah. I'm with you there. That's how we, and anybody who hasn't followed along or doesn't remember, that's kind of how we live. We're just waiting. we just wait.
See the arc. You gotta be able to predict it
in every sport. Yeah, looking at the arc, looking at Adam Chernoff used to have a really good term for that. It was a team, and it can be a team's, how you judge a team as far as being over or under as well. But a team has a range. And when a team hits the top of their range, you can't be betting on them anymore. Like they've lost their value, and that can certainly be true of a team, and in regards to totals as well.
Yeah, no, we agree. All right, so no preseason bets here. We've done 2 teams and we've made no bets. I think that's honestly, I'm gonna be honest.
Couple.
But nothing that I think is worth. There's nothing on either of these teams pre-flop, especially now hitting here in the middle, early July, that I think is like especially worth betting. But like, and honestly, like there are not a lot of strong positions to be taken this year, in my opinion. Just kind of looking across the board, I think there will be lots come regular season. Lots. In fact, I'm more excited to bet NFL this year than in many years past, just because I feel like we have a very strong idea of what's going on, as just in terms of player impact and grading, etc. But preseason, like you've lightly bet this preseason compared to years past. Am I correct?
Yeah. No, I don't have a ton. Art Smith, like, if just full transparent, a lot of, and this is before you can get down much. This is like a bunch of different $100 bets, but it's like the Raiders under was the one right off the bat. Yeah. Anywhere that I could get a 7, and
I can't wait to do the Raiders, man. I got some serious thoughts about that roster construction.
Yeah, the Raiders under, Art Smith, Coach of the Year, and maybe that's a good call. We'd kind of talked possibility of Sirianni. If you are hot on the Eagles, which we're semi-hot, like we think they have a chance, that's not the worst look. Sirianni to be Coach of the Year. If they win the division, he is absolutely in the discussion, especially coming off a 4-win team, doing it with a young quarterback, doing it as the first time as a head coach. So that, and then we talked maybe if you like either of these teams, bet them to win the division, and that's about
honestly,
it.
If the Eagles win the East, I can almost guarantee you, Sirianni will be in the top 3 vote getters. Guarantee it. And at that point, 30-1 for him to Coach of the Year, as opposed to 5-1 for them to win the East. What the hell? Wait, what the hell? Like, that sounds pretty damn decent to me. And especially if it starts to kind of break that way, and you can kind of, scoop up the other potential candidates, you got yourself a little portfolio there. But yeah,
portfolio.
Yeah. So yeah, that thank you for bringing that up. I wish I had thought of that, but that is if you want to take a betting angle away from this podcast, that's about the only thing I got for you.
Yeah. Take it easy on these 2. We will closely monitor them, but yeah, the biggest takeaway is, and Ryan Zielinski, our
40-1
guy in the chat, 40-1 on DraftKings right now.
Beautiful. That's an X multiplier on 5-1 for them to win the division. I love it. Yes. Man. 8X multiplier. Okay. In summary, Eagles look like an over team to me. Giants look like an under team to me. And neither team is getting into the playoffs unless they win the division. Either team could win this division. And realistically, I think Sirianni has a strong case for Coach of the Year if the Eagles do.
Will you be kind of mad if Jalen Hurts is really good? Because we bet him at like 100-1 to be Rookie of the Year last year. They didn't play him.
I will be mad. He wasn't going to beat Herbert, though.
No. I mean, he would have had to have a really, really, really good season. But I mean, I put like $20 on it. I just if we say something on the pod, I feel obliged to have to bet a little on it because we talked about it. So it was. I was hoping he would play. It's just a fun ticket to have.
Yeah, I kind of yeah. I'm gonna forget. I even bet that. Yeah.
It's just one of those like later. It's like they never played him. It doesn't count.
Yeah. Nope. Doesn't count. All right. Well, that was a super, super fun podcast. As always, we will do 1 down, 15 to go.
15 to go.
All right. What are we talking Wednesday? I bet you can guess.
The football team, they just announced they will not be the Warriors. They've they've thrown that one out. They listened to some Native American groups who said that was too close to some of the other the actual Redskins name. They don't like that as well. So they will not be the Warriors. Whatever. It might just be football team again, and the Cowboys. So the creme de la creme of the NFC East on Wednesday will be back. And yeah, if you have any questions for those, hit hit us on Twitter, either one of us or at Deep Dive Pod, and we'll touch on it.
This was such a great one to start on. Nothing could happen in the preseason that would make me want to bet on this division, honestly. So this was the perfect way to start.
Yeah, I know when I looked at it, and that is something like if you're waiting for a Packers preview, you got 2 months, buddy. We're pushing some of those teams where there's a lot of uncertainty get pushed to the end. So that's
some of those Packers look ahead lines, by the way. You saw Aaron Rodgers throw that ball in Tahoe, right?
He threw it like 75 yards in the air. At least
he's not taking this year off, and they ain't trading him.
I don't know. I think he just likes the attention.
That Packer, of course he does. And that Packers, he's putting the screws to them because they did him dirty drafting a quarterback in round 1. So he's using all of his leverage just to screw. No, come on, dude. He's still got it. He's not walking away. He's not.
He's happy now. He's a married man.
Tell me the last time an MVP walked away from the sport.
I don't think that happens.
It doesn't happen.
That's what. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers.
Barry Sanders was the closest, and that was Detroit. Green Bay is not Detroit. So when we are watching Green Bay and Detroit week 2 at Lambeau, Rodgers is going to be there. And you know that right now you could bet. You want to know what you could bet on that look ahead for Green Bay, Detroit? You want to guess? Oh, it's actually not that. It's not that aggressive. It's not that egregious.
Like 8?
7.5. Yeah.
Okay.
7.5. Yeah. There's some other ones that are bad though. Like Green Bay is only -2.5 against Chicago. -3 at Cincinnati, really. Plus, there's a couple of numbers that are not going to be there if Rodgers actually suits up. Anyway, let's hit the music. Good pod, good preview, good start to the season, and good start to the off-season preview series, I should say. And what's going on in the home run derby?
We have Ohtani needing to hit 23 to advance.
Okay, so you're telling me that Soto made is over.
And Ohtani will be on his under.
And you will be on his under, guaranteed. Both the big middles.